Today, we pointed an AI at a VHS tape of ChillPoint, and this is what it came up with. Might have been some tracking errors on that VHS tape.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
It can't. I mean, AIs can't get English language depiction correct anyway. So yeah, you're doing fine.
Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about all the video game news of the week that we think is interesting to talk about, and also the episode of Checkpoint that just went up.
I noticed that you got awfully fast to the introduction of this ChillPoint this time, as opposed to being constantly interrupted. And I also noticed that Heather was playing video games the entire time and not saying anything. So I wonder if those two things have to do with each other.
You're just as distracting. Just because you're not doing your work today doesn't mean anything. Also, I was polite. I've been playing that rhythm game with the sound off for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's kind of impressive to me still. I
and
still don't know how she does
yes,
it.
it was on a hard song, and it was a challenge song with nano targeting, I think.
I walk into her office sometimes at home, and she'll have headphones on, and I see she's playing rhythm games, and I have no idea whether she's actually listening to the music or not.
For those of you who've been watching my playthrough of Mario Wonder, there's a couple of rhythmy type levels.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Where there's there's those little ninja guys.
Yeah.
They're like all in black, and and so they're all hopping at the same beat.
Yeah.
And you have to hop along with them to make things happen.
Oh, really?
But the best part about it though is that on the overworld, there's like the overworld music and stuff. But when you get close to that level, you just hear like muffled, like like there's a rave going on just in that level.
That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, they're known as ninjas.
Ninjas.
Yeah, or at least they're known as ninjas over here. I have no idea if that name stuck.
They're one of the weirdo
Super Mario
enemies.
2.
I love the way Super Mario 2, and like because Super Mario 2 was a different game.
Yep.
The way that they've had to like reintegrate the Shy Guys and different things from Super Mario 2, sort of retroactively put them into the Super Mario canon,
which I find really funny because if Subcon, which is where everything in Super Mario Bros. 2 was taking place, was actually a dream, then Mario would have been dreaming all these enemies. And this does not necessarily mean that it's because he's never met them before. Because, sometimes the weirdest people show up in your dream, but they're based on people you've met in real life. So,
well, I mean, that depends on how you want to take it. Do you want these to be Mario had a dream where he started integrating a bunch of things that he's, stress dreams from work?
Yeah.
Or do you want this to be a prophetic dream where it's like future seeking? He knows in the future he's going to find these things.
It's like image training, right? That he's like, this is how I'm going to beat Wart. Also, though, that reminds me of the Koopa Troopas from New Super Mario Brothers. I think actually did this, where they would be walking along, and then when the music's going da 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 da, and then at a certain point da 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 da, and there's a secondary instrument that goes wop wah wop wah, and whenever they do that, the Koopa Troopas stop, turn to the screen, and they kind of shimmy and shake on the wah wah, and then they turn back and they go about their walking again.
Wow, I did not know that.
That means that music is actually heard. It's not just
they
for
can
you.
hear it.
Right,
Yeah.
it's diegetic music. Anyway, we were so close to starting the show.
Oh, we did start the show. We
You
let you do
introduced
the
it.
intro, and now
Yeah.
we're just doing this in a slightly different order, and we're still talking about video games. I was playing
It's
some.
true.
You
It's true.
played some.
Mm-hmm.
We've all played video games. We have to show our cred at some point, or people won't think that we play games.
Yeah.
We just talk about them like some kind of forum lurker.
I feel like that's not like the big problem with forum workers, that they don't play enough video games.
For anyone who was wondering yesterday why it looked like I was, because this just comes up, why I looked like I was reading the teleprompter way off on this side of the studio, it's because I was using my other eye to talk to you. And
Beach lost a contact lens.
yeah, I lost my very expensive
You
contact
can
lens
find more
at
about
home.
this. You can find out more about this on Mastodon.
Yep.
Which one are you on? Your Mastodon.social?
I am on Octodon, at Beej
Octodon?
at octodon.social.
To be clear,
Mm-hmm.
you were using a different eye to look at the people.
Yes, not
You were using the same mouth that you always
Correct,
use
yeah.
to talk to the
It's
people.
always using my same eye.
well,
I lost
we're not
it.
allowed to pull out
yeah.
the second mouth here.
I lost it. I assume I lost it in a hallway in my house, which is not that very big a space, but it's fucking gone. So I've already ordered a new one. But in the meantime, I'm talking to you with my right eye because I remembered I had an old contact
I
lens.
still think that's weird and
so
wrong.
I cleaned it off. I spit in it a couple times, put
Yeah.
it in my eye, and now we're using both eyes again. He said, "Excuse me."
Okay. Good.
Same mouth to talk
Glad
to
to know,
you.
glad to know how
Alright,
you're doing
alright.
today.
Let's-
Yeah. Paul, you doing okay still?
I'm doing okay. Yeah,
You've been like, do you
Yeah.
wear contacts ever?
I've tried wearing contacts a couple times.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I think in a very early episode of Commodore Hustle, I'm like not wearing glasses for the whole episode, and it's not explained, like it's not referenced or explained at all. But that was me testing out contacts, and I did not like them.
That's fair.
They, I have a very strong prescription, and it means that the contacts that I needed to have, were the quality of vision that they gave me was not what I needed or
That's
what
fair.
what I expected
Yeah.
from my glasses. So I would definitely wear contacts if I could, and I still have some sort of disposable contacts
Right.
because it's occasionally useful for things that we're filming. But
Oh yeah, that's fair.
anyway, all right, let's talk about F-Zero,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming is how you pronounce the
F-Zero,
name.
exactly.
F-Zero.
Mhm.
F-Zero, the Super Nintendo game. And this is, I feel like we've done like one or two other stories about Satellaview stuff.
It may have come up. I mean, if we have, Graham has never been around because he was expressing in the after show how he was like, I have never really heard of this before. Then again, Graham sometimes forgets about stuff.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do. So
Sometimes we just pretend.
maybe
to
he
listen.
was not, maybe he'd heard about it but didn't really process it. Who knows? But
But Satellaview is one of those fascinating things where it's like, what? They did that?
yeah. And not even as easy a thing to understand as maybe like Sega had a
The Sega Channel.
Sega had the Sega Channel for the Genesis, I believe, and that was reasonably straightforward. An idea of you subscribe to the service and you download a game, and that's what you get.
That was just basically like it was essentially like a BBS that it was just the thing that your Sega could like phone into, download games from.
Yeah.
It wasn't a broadcast.
So,
Yeah.
so for those of you who were not like born in the 2000s and didn't have Satellaview because you weren't in Japan,
I was gonna
the only
it's,
place.
it's an add-on to a Super Nintendo.
It is, yeah. It is a bottom thing.
Like you need the Super Nintendo.
It goes on the bottom of your Super Nintendo. That's what that port on the bottom of the Super Nintendo is for expansion, and it plugged into the Satellaview.
Yeah, and then you had to be online at a certain time of day for this broadcast.
You had to have your Super Nintendo
online.
on during a certain time of day so that they could receive the broadcast. Yes.
And what was really interesting about that though is that it meant that they could do all sorts of things that there's no way you would have been able to do with like a cartridge at the time.
And doing dial-up and stuff.
So there was there's like not CD audio, but like high quality audio.
Mm-hmm.
There was voiceover stuff. They had like people competing against each other in sort of like you would do in like an arcade system. Like all this kind of amazing stuff. I was actually thinking about some of the things that they did legitimately do on Satellaview reminds me of some of the things that they were talking about maybe trying to do with
The Wii U?
No, with with Stadia on
Yeah.
where the idea, because one of the things that they sold Stadia with that never really came up or never really got off the ground was because it's Google, you'd be on YouTube gaming, streaming your game, and then on Stadia, and then other people on Stadia could be watching the stream and go like hit a button and join into your game.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
it would immediately stream their thing and stuff. And so, I mean, obviously it's a different setup, but just the idea of like having everybody connected in that way, they were doing, 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
There are a lot of projects for getting Satellaview stuff going. I'm mostly familiar with like what it's been a while since I've researched it, but I went on a deep dive for the Zelda one.
Yeah, for BS Zelda.
Because once you start looking
Right.
up, you're like, oh, I'm gonna play all the Zelda games. There's
It's
some weird things over
probably
here.
the biggest, most extensive project that I think Satellaview did was doing Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but with live narration, which meant you had to play the game at a certain time and you had to be doing the parts of the game that they expect you to be doing.
Right.
Yeah, like they really leaned into this. It very not semi-guided, I guess, is the way you'd want to come across it. Like the way you'd want to describe it is that it's like it was a semi-guided method of you're going to hear narration and people interacting and whatnot. There's going to be cutscenes and everything else while you're playing.
But you could like miss part 1 and you'd just be starting at part 2.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the middle.
And yeah, it's super interesting idea. But
it is something I'd really like them to put on the Nintendo Online service, just as a because I think the Zelda one is specifically was like either parts of an older Zelda game or those parts basically ended up in a different Zelda game that they just made later, or something like that. But it's still kind of a neat thing to see.
It's
just to check out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's sort of fascinating in particular about Satellaview is that by its very nature, it was this sort of ephemeral thing. And so we don't have we don't have, unless people had the presence of mind to dump the ROMs as they were happening.
Yeah.
We don't have the recordings of it, and we don't have the actual data from them.
Yes.
But we do have recordings in a lot of cases on VHS tapes. And so what the story is about is that so apparently there was a set of F-Zero tracks from Satellaview already, like they had already been sourced. So these are yet more Satellaview.
Yeah,
so
the second Grand Prix, I think is what they call it.
There's been a thing going around of like Satellaview F-Zero tracks for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
People find them. By the way, if for some reason somebody listening to this has access to Satellaview, I believe there's like a standing bounty of like $5,000.
Yes.
For anybody who has a Satellaview cart with useful data on it.
Not from us.
Yeah.
Not from us.
Not from us. We can't.
But from the
do
from
anything.
from the
But
larger
from other people.
If you
preservation
happen to,
community.
Yeah, if you had happened to buy one of these things because you were in Japan in the 2000s after they discontinued the service and you went to Super Potato and you're like, this thing is cool, and you brought it home and you had the cartridge, you're like, I don't know what it's for, but I own it now. Well, you're probably kind of hard nerd that already knows people are looking for the information on there, but
anyway, yeah. So they all they had were VHS recordings of these broadcasts, but obviously, Beej made a funny of talking about running the AI on various VHS tapes
Absolutely.
to just make games.
yeah,
But what they were able to do is in this very narrow area, they could take and there had already been some work done in the idea of using a neural network system to figure out what the inputs were from a video source. Somebody had already been working on that, and so this guy took that same information or took that thing and sort of expanded it. And this idea of it's like we know how F-Zero works and how like the Mode 7 system works, and so we can map that to actually like build at least a representation of the track.
Yeah.
By just sort of interpreting the different colors and stuff. And then I believe he worked with a pixel art designer to clean up and fill in the areas that weren't done.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff.
It's funny too, right? Because it's like if I have a few things I want to say about this, but the more immediate one that comes to me is that if you had a map of the track, I'm just going to draw big blue in the air here. I think that's big blue. Anyway, if you had it could be Deathwind for all I know, but if you had that track, and you had a map of it, that's all you had, just a screen capture of the game with the map in the corner, and you'd be like, oh, I know what that looks like. And that's enough to be like, well, I can rebuild a track that looks like that. Because you could do that. You could just be like, I can build a track that looks like that. But you might not be correct, because the track might be longer than the one or shorter than the one that you end up making. It might be wider or narrower than the one that you're actually looking at. Like there's all these little things about how the map is designed that you don't get from just a picture of it.
Right, and like where all the little the speed ups and the
are there jumps,
the rail stations, the jumps,
are there the magnetic bars that drag you towards them that you hate, like all that kind of stuff might be missing, and you only get it from like descriptions or other stuff. And it's like you have a VHS copy, you can have your machine learning tool say, I can analyze everything that's going through here, and I can tell from how the everything's changing that corresponds to controller input. So I know that if the viewport changes, it means that, it's because this guy decided to turn that way or to turn this way, or is speeding up or is slowing down, and therefore I can take all that into account while I'm building a much more detailed map of what this might look like. And then you have somebody come along and say, yeah, okay, now that is what it looks like. I will start making pixel art for it.
And then of course,
kind of nice.
And the cool thing is that people then, and we, because F-Zero is a pretty well-known game, and people can make can now release an actual ROM of F-Zero with these tracks in it.
It is a game that many people wish there was a new game out, and they didn't mean F-Zero 99 when they asked for that, but that's what Nintendo gave.
And that segs into the other thing that I want to say is that my frustration with this, the fact that it's like people are trying to restore the old F-Zero tracks to the Super Nintendo version of the game, obviously, because that's where these ones come from, is Satellaview that was on Super Nintendo. And so has Nintendo actually ever used these tracks in any of the other F-Zeros that they ever made? Well, maybe the only other one I think is the Game Boy Advance one, because once you got to like F-Zero X and F-Zero GX, they were more complicated games at that point.
No, that's so I'm not an F-Zero fan personally, so I don't pay that much attention to that, but I know about other stuff that happened in the games I don't pay attention to. So that's never been what I've heard come up.
And then
in
also
conversation.
They've been adding new tracks to F-Zero 99. And I don't know where they're basing them from, if they're getting them from the other games or if these are just net new tracks that people are coming up with. That's exciting. Where are the Satellaview tracks? I would assume if you were an F-Zero super fan this deep into doing this kind of reconstruction or whatever, you probably play a lot of F-Zero 99. You would have noticed that, these Satellaview tracks are showing up in F-Zero 99, so we technically have them back. So you could be basing your designs on that instead.
I mean, maybe. I feel like if there were tracks that were like that, there would be people who would be like, this is really cool. Look at this track and how it's based on this. I also know that within fandoms, there's always... You don't necessarily play the new thing because it's not the thing that you actually wanted more of.
Fair.
Sometimes you just keep playing the one that you liked.
Yeah.
But
it just makes me think that Nintendo should, if they have the data, they should release those old tracks in F-Zero 99.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like it's probably easier to just make all new maps than to figure out where the hell all that weird data is. And
absolutely.
Interpret into whatever the new format is for the new tracks and all this stuff.
Yeah. Maybe it's buried in the GigaLeaks.
Yeah. Now, the comments that we got mostly on this story for the fact that apparently there is one good Ghostbusters game. It's from 2009, I think. It's like PlayStation or something else. It's something that Beach definitely would not have looked at or played.
Yeah, no, apparently the one that came out when the new Ghostbusters movie was being, when they were talking about the Ghostbusters, the Kristen Wiig one.
Yeah.
When that one was coming out, they were also talking a lot about making the men Ghostbusters ones.
So so there is a Ghostbusters movie or Ghostbusters game that's quite fun actually.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
That is actually, and it's also theoretically canonical. They actually, and it's got, I think they actually have. I think they do actually have, and this was before Harold Ramis died. So I believe they have all four all four actors doing voices in it.
That's real cool. That's awesome. Yeah, the Wii version that came out of that game was also more cartoony, big head action thing. I remember that being a thing at the time because they're like, we can't put the full, 720p, 1080p version on the Wii, so we made a different version of it. So
yeah, I mean, there was a time period where that was happening. Well, I mean, it still happens, right? Like, I think, what was it? FIFA is always a watered down version on the Switch.
Yeah.
Or was, because they don't make FIFA anymore. They make
ECFC
that
2.4.
thing now. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me.
It's like impossible to say that like normally. Yeah, it was like
The Commodore 64 Ghostbusters game, which I believe I rented the Nintendo Ghostbusters game, the NES Ghostbusters game, and it is essentially the same game, and it was irritating as hell. You tried to like it. You tried so hard to like all sorts of aspects of it, and I watched somebody do like a speed run of it and was like very satisfied from watching it because I realized, you had to know so much about how this game worked if you wanted to have a chance in hell of being able to beat it.
Right.
And it was never in the instruction manuals or anything else. And if you're renting a game, you almost never get instruction manuals. So, yeah, that sucked. Like I was fascinated by that game, but I always hated the fact that it was damn near unplayable because you could just not figure out how to do things.
Anyway, let us move on.
Yeah, what got talked about after that?
Where is
Talk
the
about
wind?
this is yet another. There was a story last week about, or was it last week or the week before, about the developers of Pal World being like the mobile version of Pal World is not real.
Yes, it's a ripoff.
That's not ours.
Yeah.
Oh, right, but this is Lethal Company.
And so now this is the Lethal Company. People are going like, no, the mobile version of there is no mobile version of Lethal Company. And now this story actually has a little sort of behind the scenes aspect of this. There was actually a totally different version of this story that Graham wrote first, which was basically this, because they say this thing being like that the mobile version is it is not in any way official. It is not licensed. It is most likely a scam. And Graham took the idea that like the developer was like, it's most likely a scam.
Yes.
And sort of, the aspect of like, the guy's been working really hard.
Yep.
The game's been done a lot of things. I mean,
maybe he doesn't know if he's written one or one. Sometimes,
you're working on a project in kind of a fugue state.
Yep.
Maybe you agreed to something you didn't expect. So that was the joke. And then, so he had that story written. And then when I was actually going to get graphics, I wanted to get, the little quote thing.
Yeah.
And I realized that the quote was not actually from the developer himself. It was from the mods of his Discord, who presumably have contact with the developer. But so it wasn't like official word from the developers that this is likely a scam. It's not, according to the developer, it's not official. The mod sort of going, it's not official, so it's likely a scam. So that, changed the context of the story a little bit, and allowed us to shout out to our mods, who are often long-suffering mods. We apologize for doing things.
We sometimes forget to tell them things. We think we've told them because we've talked about the thing so much.
Or we
Yeah.
tell people to put things in chat and it messes things up.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
we got to make a dig at Beach and Ian.
Yeah. Which is fun because I just got busy lying to people and then.
Yeah, the previous story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was that, and I personally like a good because I do Rhythm Cafe with Ian, so I do those kinds of digs every so often.
I was looking. I was thinking. I ended up with a screenshot from previous episode of ChillPoint that Bij and Ian did together, which worked out well. But my alternate graphic for that was just going to be like a screenshot of, all the various times when chat just becomes like a series of people going Ian in all caps.
I mean, I believe he's got an emote on his own Twitch channel because of that.
Nice.
It's fun. I greatly enjoy, I'll be here, working at the office at weird times sometimes, and somebody will be streaming in Studio A or even streaming from home or doing things. And the main
chat.
the main Studio C computer just has, chat open on second monitor because it's, usually just because we're doing things and it's just idling there. Mm-hmm. And so it's fun to sort of, I have a habit of trying to guess what's going on in the stream just by what chat's saying.
Yeah, contextless chat is really funny.
Like I know the one that I like is on Tuesday mornings. You'll be going along and at a certain point, usually somewhere around 10 o'clock, a bunch of people in chat will go, and Surge! And I'll be like, they are currently playing the intro for 9 o'clock.
Nice.
I like it when you start seeing like this incredibly deep conversation going on. You're just like, wait, what's going on in stream? If you turn the stream on, there's nothing to do with. Like
they're just ignoring what's going on.
They maybe said something that sparked it, but like they're not participating in that conversation.
Anyway, so yeah, do not buy. I mean, Graham says, is likely a scam. I think that's a pretty generous read of the situation. But then Graham himself also does quite a generous read of this, saying that it might be, it's not necessarily going to steal your identity. It might be more malicious, just trying to get you to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's generally what clones like that do.
I mean, as the post does the post that the mod did pointed out that in the especially on Android, it's more there's more options under Android for what apps are able to do.
Yeah.
And in that thing where the little
here's what this thing will be able to have access to.
This is what it's requesting access for.
Yeah.
And the things is it's access to your contacts and all this other stuff when when the app isn't even running.
Yes.
Yeah. Like access to all your location data and your all this. So it's like,
okay, yeah, those are definitely
don't do
scams.
That.
Then,
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, but a fair amount of time, what you see is just cash grabs.
Yeah.
Right. People trying to get a bunch of people to pay them $5 to find out that they were wrong about what they bought.
Right, and it's like some we'll catch a bunch of people who think that it's real, and then some percentage of those people will forget or not bother to refund. So we'll make some money off of it.
Yeah.
It's very unpleasant kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to tell you not to buy those things because you're all in charge of your own wallets. And I'm not.
Not in charge of their wallets.
No, just mine.
Yeah.
I like it that way. It's where I keep my library card.
Princess Peach Showtime.
Yeah.
Looks like a super neat game.
I hope it's good. I want it to be good.
It looks like, apparently Princess Peach, I mean, technically speaking, it looks like it's not so much that she's taking on different jobs, because the structure seems to be that it's like
It's a play.
performances
Yes.
that she
Yeah, she goes to some sort of. It looks like she goes to some sort of theater, and there's just different sets.
Like, in order for her to be able to progress through whatever she's trapped in this theater for example, I'm not sure. I'm assuming there's something insidious going on, and it's like, well, then I have to make my way through all the plays, and then when I get through all the plays, then I can leave.
and
Very Luigi's Mansion kind of idea.
but it looks super neat in that, like, each, not only do you get different like abilities, like a standard Mario thing, but it looks like the different costumes are actually like different gameplay. Like, at least from the trailers, like some of them are like a full 3D environment, some of them are 2D environment, some of them are different types of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be like the like superhero one was like a full on like side scroller shooting game.
She's dressed up like a tokusatsu hero, I think, is the idea that they're going for there. That it's like,
Right,
I'm,
yeah, like Ultraman thing.
Yeah, a different hero thing as opposed to like our cape people.
Western superheroes.
Yeah,
Or cape people.
to use the
their word. Yeah,
to use the most politically correct terminology. Caped people.
caped people.
Yeah, I mean, that game comes out in March, so we should be. It's a little early, but we should probably be hitting like previews and reviews in like a few weeks.
This isn't part of this story, but it's swirling around the outside edges of Princess Peach Showtime. This is essentially the last major first-party release that Nintendo has announced for the Switch so far.
Oh, really?
They haven't seemed to be
It's
given
what we know of, yes.
Yeah, they haven't given any other indication of things that are happening 6 months or further out. And as Heather has mentioned to me, directs have not come out yet.
It's February.
Yes.
And generally around February, Nintendo puts out a direct of some kind. If not by February, then generally March. But pattern-wise, February has been a month that one has happened. It's not happened yet. The current theory or thing that I keep seeing people talk
Speculation.
about
Let's call it a hypothesis.
is that because Xbox did their podcast when they did it, that Nintendo delayed it to next week because everyone was very hot on the idea that it was going to be this week for various reasons of like certain people who are leakers or insiders or whatever.
I know, Paul. It drives me up the fucking wall when she talks about this stuff too.
Look,
No,
I hang out on forums. And this is the forum channel I hang out in. It's the one where they talk about when you think the direct will happen. I love not reading them.
I know.
The idea that Nintendo is even like aware of what Xbox is when Xbox is going to be doing their podcast.
The conspiracy theory was that Nintendo had to get the direct out this week before the podcast happened because Nintendo had to announce first that those games that were going to go multi-platform were going to be a thing, and then it didn't happen, so everyone kind of was like, oh no. What do we do now? And now it's like, oh, no, they have to do it after because the thing that happened with Xbox ended up making them have to say a thing for their podcast, and thus Nintendo has moved their thing to this other thing.
And also I know that we're going to get into the Xbox news as well. Like we're going to talk about that thing, but just the thing about the Switch that I thought was interesting is it's like the tea leaves we're trying to read right now are, does this mean that we're hearing about the Switch 2 this
that's
year?
The other part.
And when would it happen?
That's the other part of the speculation that's also going on because Switch 2 rumors have existed for the last 7 years, but these ones are actually ramping up more and feel more believable because it's actually been 7 years. And so a lot of people are saying they think the reveal will be in March.
Right.
Not that it'll come out in March, but they'll finally reveal it in March.
Yeah.
But there was an article that showed up sometime this morning. I read it. I was like half awake. So maybe I'm making this up, but I'm probably not. That people think that it might... Someone is saying that it's not getting released until 2025 and it's been delayed. You're gonna hear these kinds of things all
Yeah.
year.
Things that
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
been announced can't be delayed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can delay things internally.
But it was
But
They're
that
not
doesn't count.
using
That
the
doesn't
words
count as a
properly.
delay.
No, it
though.
doesn't.
But I do think it's interesting that given everything that Nintendo was laying out for like first party releases, that Wonder and then Mario RPG and then Showtime, and it's like Showtime was like the last one on the list, and that's the one we're bumping up.
Right.
Okay, so
And so it's like, so
In-
does that
in-
actually mean anything, or doesn't it?
It doesn't right now.
Yeah.
And I will tell you factually why. They gave us that information in like September
Right.
or earlier last year. And when they talk in the September Direct, they don't usually go past the end of the fiscal year, which is March.
Yes.
Which is why I say normally they have a Direct around February because they have to tell us about stuff that's past March.
Yeah.
So right now, the fact that March and Princess Peach is like the last Switch game is just right now until they talk about something else, because chances are good, even if the Switch 2 is being revealed in March, it probably won't come out for several months. There will likely be another game or two that they will have to talk about. Like, we still don't actually, I don't think we know the date for Luigi's Mansion 2.
It's,
Oh yeah, that's true.
you know, it's but it is
Right?
is
Like,
that
there are other Switch games.
it is that interesting thing of like inferring. It's
It's a canary in the coal mine kind of idea.
Yeah, inferring when something will happen by the absence,
Yeah.
not by that anything being announced. But the fact there hasn't been anything announced. I was like in Terry Pratchett books, they talk about like a witch knows when she's going to die because they can see into the future,
Yes.
and they can't see themselves dying, but they
know when it stops.
but they can see that there's no more future after a certain point for them.
yeah. Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, okay, I get what that means.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a thing. It's like we're seeing, they were like 6 months from now this is coming out, 6 months from now this is coming out, and now we're up to that, and we haven't been we haven't been like refilled with what's going to happen
Exactly.
in another 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is suspicious, but yeah,
Except
unless
it's,
they
it's
just
not.
unless
It's just
it's not.
because of how timelines work.
Right.
Like, we got Sony State of Play, Xbox
Did this
did
announcement.
a podcasty thing
Yeah.
that had nothing
Yeah.
of interest in it to me, and Nintendo hasn't done theirs yet.
I dig I do like the way, like in we can go on to talking about the Xbox, the Microsoft announcement, and I dig the way and Graham talked about in the after show how there was like a weirdly large amount of hype about this announcement, that was
There wasn't.
not was sort of, I mean, weirdly, I guess from the
If that's the first thing you saw, it feels like a hype thing. But if you're watching what went down, it wasn't really.
I guess
It was trying to, them announcing that they were doing the podcast.
no,
was
I mean
more to
weirdly
do-
amount of hype from the community
Oh,
about
yeah.
about the event. Like, people got like weirdly hyped up about the event, like it was going to be like this really big
Oh,
deal.
Yeah, well, it's because there's a lot of doomsayers.
And I like
not
that.
like the Halo
I like
9.
that the hype about this Xbox event, the misplaced hype about this Xbox event had this like knock-on effect to misplaced hype about Nintendo being like, we're super hyped about this event
Yeah.
that turned out to be not that interesting. But that means that the Nintendo event that was not
As-
announced or anything planned, but clearly they had to move it because this big event that we're all hyped about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are knock-on effects. But I'm going to tell you, as a person who's been hanging out in these forums for like the last 3 years,
They don't need
every
an
February they get this way. They don't need
Yeah.
an excuse.
Internet prognosticators will hang their hat on any tiny sliver of evidence that could mean something
Yeah.
versus what somebody else is doing.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm like, I agree with you. We've talked about this multiple times. I'm like, I don't think Nintendo even knows there's a video game industry. I think I'm just at this point. I think they just think that they just make their fun toys and they released them, and then they used to go to this thing where there were a bunch of other people and they all had time on stage, and like, that's interesting that that's happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think they actually know that there's any other people out there that are doing things with game consoles at this point.
They're not even. Yeah, they're not. They're just like they're not. Yeah, they're not competing.
Yeah.
In the same realm as Microsoft and Sony, for and that's helps them, but also causes problems sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes people wonder about stuff.
I want to
but-
be clear. I personally really like the forum where we all speculate and hang out, and I mostly lurk, and everyone almost crashes the site every time they think that the tweet for Nintendo is going to land. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Beach doesn't like hearing about it, but
it's
married to
it's
me.
the
so
same
now
story
you're my
every
captive.
time is
It's
the problem.
so fucking cute.
I know you have a lot of fun with it, and I don't want to begrudge you that, but I will say that it is like the same story every time that these people get really pent up and because like it's one thing to be excited for something, it's one thing to be so rabid about it that you get angry and you have like fits and you're like, why isn't it this?
I
Why
don't
isn't
think
it
I've
that?
ever really seen that.
I know, but it's this like just kind of I don't like getting myself so excited about something that I start to get really like I start to have the shakes about it. I don't like that feeling. And every time I hear about like, oh, there's people just going off and talking about whatever and it's just like, oh, I don't like that. I feel like that just leads to a lot of stress. So, yeah.
Some of them have fun there.
Anyway,
I'm not going to tell you where it is because I don't want anyone hanging out with my cool people
the
that I lurk and they don't know who I am at all.
It's fair. Yeah.
the larger or the sort of the main takeaway for in terms of the Microsoft thing, which by the way, I mean, so part of the joke there is that whenever we see industry events that are supposed to be happening on like Thursday afternoon, it's always like we're not gonna
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to do a very good,
Yeah.
report on that very well because, the information will be out too late for us to do on ChillPoint. And then by the time the next week comes around, it'll probably be old news and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And so, it's like,
Or it would have been non-news anyway, but
Right.
who we didn't really know. We had no way of knowing.
and so, the joke is that they're putting it on, they know that. And so they're putting it on Thursday afternoon. It's like, oh, this must be bad news if they're putting it on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Because they know they can avoid the checkpoint episode that's going to come out that'll really nail them.
The funny thing is, this is the joke I hear about on almost every video gaming podcast I listen to because almost all the gaming podcasts I listen to record on Wednesdays, so their podcasts come out on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And occasionally, like one or two of them might be like, okay, when are they doing the announcement thing? Thursday morning? Okay, well, we could probably just bump our recording to Thursday morning and the podcast episode will be out a little later than normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. It's the joke I hear on every podcast I listen to. Only I hear it like 2 to 3 days later because for me to catch up
Yep.
takes some time.
But anyway, so we legitimately didn't know what was going to until like almost we were about to record because it would turn out it was actually earlier in the day than we thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they moved it earlier in the day, but we just weren't paying attention.
Time zones.
So it was earlier. So we got the information like I think just before we started to record. Heather was like, "Hey, they actually did the announcement already."
It just landed technically. I mean, nobody's written anything about it yet.
Which basically torpedoed what I thought was a really like was the way I had written my. So we wrote two coming ups that were the
Right.
same thing, but I wrote a different joke, and we had to dump mine because it was a little too focused on the fact that this thing hasn't come out yet. The announcement hasn't come out, and it's like, well, now it has come out. So does it still work? When I read it, I was like, it doesn't still work. Let's read Graham's, which is a little more like, they're going to be announcing this. They have announced that they're going to be announcing this thing at time of recording, and this is and it's like, yeah, that kind of follows a little bit better. The confusion of it, I think, is a lot more fun. So, but by the way, my read was Microsoft has announced that they'll reveal the future of Xbox later today, neatly skipping the checkpoint writing deadline, and they'll be doing it on a podcast, so don't miss your only chance to hear three white guys talk about Xbox. which would have been great because that's what you call a group of 3 white guys as a podcast. And then Graham was like, it's 4 people. And I'm looking at it right now, and it's not all white dudes. And it's like, well, I got to dump that because
they've done a lot better about, well, at least PR-wise, showing off diversity. But
I knew I couldn't read it because I
Yeah,
was like,
it's-
if I did in the comments, people would be like, it wasn't 3 white guys, Beach. And it's like, I know it wasn't 3 white guys.
It was weird. I feel like maybe they, because like in order to try to pull back on the hype a little bit because they realized that it was getting a little out of hand. The fact that they were like, it's gonna be announced on this podcast, like the fact, like it was a, it was a well presented thing, and it was to call it a pod. Like I would have called it more of a presentation than a podcast. Like it was a very well set up thing with a bunch of people talking about stuff. I feel like calling it a podcast was maybe trying to like minimize it a little bit, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
or maybe that's just my.
That's an interesting way to look at it, though. To
that-
be like,
that's
hey,
just-
don't
maybe
get so
that's
hype
my-
about this.
Maybe that's just my interpretation.
the way I interpret a podcast is, for technicality reasons, it shows up in a podcast feed somewhere.
That's true.
There's an
Yes.
audio only version.
Yeah, YouTube
and
podcast,
YouTube-
Spotify podcast,
YouTube,
get fucked.
you can get Spotify is.
It's not RSS though. You have to go to Spotify to get it. You can't just get it from wherever.
It's still an audio only feed thing.
Yeah,
so I would count that. I in fact count YouTube videos that don't have a picture. But if we want to go beyond technicality, I count ChillPoint as a podcast because we don't really do much outside of talking.
I suppose that's true.
Like there's no intricate visual thing that makes this not a thing someone can have in a second tab and not be watching.
Yeah, very rarely do we actually have visual.
I believe we did actually chat about when we were after a while we were doing ChillPoint. We talked about whether we should make an audio version of it.
Does this go in the aggregate feed?
Well, we have people who ask for it.
Yeah.
We don't currently do
And
that.
our decision so far has been not right now.
Yeah, but
I won't say never because that feels weird to me to say never to, but
no.
But we have not decided to do that.
Anyway, let's move on to some other stuff that wasn't in the episode.
Oh, the Sony story we skipped, but that was more of just like what happened during the earnings call.
this is like
yes.
Rockfisher, ChillPoint, second screen content? Surely not.
Right. Yes.
Personally, I'm happy if you have us on any screen. Second screen, third screen,
Screen that's like behind you.
second tab.
Laserbeak's Fury. Not only can you listen to this while you're grinding in WoW, you can listen to this while you're grinding in VR chat.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If you have it on have it in a different tab so you're startled every time we talk.
That's
actually,
the spooky podcast.
Beach mentioned yes. We did do the thing about Sony's financial reporting, which this is 'tis the season for the earning calls, and this was mostly one of these things where it's like, when you see things like this, like especially because we're Checkpoint normally operates in this sort of meta news area, right? Where we're reporting on what other people are reporting about.
Yeah.
And so you see something like this earnings call, and then 45 different websites all have like the same head or very similar headline takes on it, and you're like, what the heck happened?
They'll make about 30 different articles about it because they'll grab different points to do their little things about, right? Yeah.
And so you're like, what happened on this call? And then you sort of dive into it and you realize that it's like, oh, it's actually kind of a nothing thing. But the fact that there was all this sort of stuff around it makes it kind of interesting unto itself. The main takeaway that people got from this was that there aren't going to be any big franchise releases from Sony in 2024. In 2024.
Yeah.
They haven't said that there will be or won't be in 2025. They just said there won't be any this year. And they said that they are working on other ones.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense. Games take a long time to make. I think, because it was asked about in the after show about The Last of Us or like what other third-party things there are. And I think people were saying that The Last of Us counts as a Sony thing because they
I mean,
On the thing, it gets really confusing to try to figure
yeah,
out
obviously
sometimes.
the distinction, what they mean by, you know, first party console exclusive franchises is there's a lot of interpretation there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games that, you know, what's first party and what isn't is confusing in this age we live in of these massive conglomerate corporations. So who knows what the actual what that actually means? It doesn't. But what it definitely doesn't mean is that there won't be other games coming out for PlayStation. Like they've explicitly talked about, like there's like a ton of third-party games that are coming out.
Yeah, I think this is why kind of we're seeing like everybody on the internet getting kind of riled up, is because we've got like the PS5 story that is being kind of touted around, is that PS5 is not going to have any first-party games, and over the course of the year,
And that's somehow an indication
and
that like it's dying.
yeah, or it's not as good, or like where the exclusives. And Xbox's big thing that everyone was riled up about was that all of their games will be multi-platform. So why did you buy an Xbox if you could
Play them on your PlayStation 5 that's going away.
When the number of people, what I was quite interested in is when the like news was going around about the announcement, the Xbox thing, the number of people I saw, consumers who were like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're gonna make like the things like that they were like, please Xbox, don't make all these things multi-platform. You're gonna tank the Xbox.
Yes.
Is like I was kind of like taken aback at that. It's like that's such a weird take from a consumer standpoint, where it's like
usually not what you hear, right? It's
Yeah.
usually like, man, they should put their games on everything.
like exclusives are usually not a thing, but these are people who are like, I guess, you know, their concern is like the health of the console, I guess. I don't know. It's
I
weird.
think that attitude is very telling, because what it says is, I want the Xbox to survive, right? That's a positive thing. I want the Xbox to survive. Why? Because I bought one and I like being an Xbox fan, and I like having these games that are playable on the Xbox. Oh no, if you release all these games to all these other platforms, then there's no reason for anyone to buy an Xbox, because ... We fill in the blank here, because it's not as good of a piece of hardware as a PS5 or just a PC. Is it? Are you saying that's like, I bought this thing, but I don't believe in the overall health of the platform enough, because I think that there's way too many people out there buying PS5s because they're superior? Like, what are you saying about yourself that you think that your thing that you love is not going to be any good?
From a purely practical standpoint, if PlayStation's got exclusives and the Xbox doesn't,
Yes.
if you get the PlayStation, you get all the things, and the Xbox only get
Yeah.
You
the.
only
So
get a few
I
things.
guess that makes sense.
Can
but
I tell you a secret, Peach? So maybe I know this is gonna blow both of your minds. The PlayStation 5 and
I'm
the Xbox and
supporting
even
my
the
head.
Switch
Uh-huh.
are just computers.
Yeah. You sure are.
yeah.
Well, they're very specialized computers that, you know, run their own app stores.
Anyway,
They don't want you to know.
No.
let's move on. To this is, you know, we talk about on ChillPoint and ChillPoint that often, you know, game announcements aren't something that we usually cover that much, just because it's like, this thing exists. That's why things like E3 are not actually that great a source for news for us. However, sometimes games' very existence is fun. Like, for
I hope
instance,
so.
Jewel of Faramore,
Yeah.
which is a RZ,
Arzette.
the Jewel of Faramore, which is a game that just came out, and so, you know, there's a big thing for retro games.
Yes.
Retro games are very popular these days. Get your pixel art up there and all this stuff. But, you know, there's more to retro than just pixel art.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
And so the developers the developers of this game, CDI Software.
Yeah, CD, SEEDYEYE, CDI.
Decided to evoke the nostalgia factor of the CDI.
Yep.
Specifically, the Link Philips CDI games.
Yeah, and Zelda the Wand of Gamelon, yeah.
They
Philips
have
CDI,
kind of a-
known for being. I love this quote from Bill Gates. Caught in the middle, it was a terrible game machine and a terrible PC. That's from Bill Gates. They were like, let's make that, but with modern modern, so it's actually like fun and playable, but it has that aesthetic.
And we don't
I
have to
can't-
actually like code it in.
Right.
That
I
machine.
can't wait to bomb some legally distinct dongos.
Check out here. I can wait here. Yeah, I can play the trailer for you.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Good for them.
After 10 years of peace,
They got the voice actors specifically.
has returned.
Of course they did.
Look at it.
Princess Arzette to defeat him.
It's like comparing the action. The gameplay is actually pretty tight.
Arzette must explore the kingdom of Faramore. Slay fearsome foes. Acquire powerful items. Discover secrets.
That thing of like
Colorful characters.
where like the background is just like a big painting.
Yeah.
Timeless minions. Here to challenge.
My god.
Featuring hand-painted backgrounds, animated scenes,
My goods will improve your fortunes, so long as you improve mine.
outstanding original score, and talent from previous interactive adventures. Good. This will be a journey you won't want to miss. Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore, coming soon to your interactive multimedia system.
Oh God. Nintendo Switch, PS. Hey, multi-platform
Yeah.
release. There you go.
So there's this thing, right? There's this nostalgia for things people didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those.
I think there's like a German word for that.
There is, yeah. I don't know what it is, but it is a false nostalgia. It's feeling nostalgic for. It's like when you look at a picture of what a kid's bedroom looked like in the 1990s, and you're like, oh yeah, I miss the 90s. You're like, no, the 90s looked like the goddamn 70s in most houses. Like your parents never painted your room to look awesome like that. So this I love. I will not play it, but one of the things that I think is great is. The devs, one of the devs did say that there was a particular kind of style in what you got, especially because we played the Wand of Gamelon, I think, the Link, the Seeds of Evil, or whatever it was called, one of the two CDI games.
Dandy Ben.
Yeah, Danny Geek exposed me to that, which was lovely. I'm so glad that he did that.
There's a VOD of it somewhere.
And that controlled
Surely.
like shit. Like that was awful. Faces
Right.
of Evil. Thank you. It was very floaty and very like meh. This doesn't look like that. Like
Right,
in the
so-
side-scrolly parts.
And that's a really fun. Like I think there's a lot of interesting sort of place to play with that.
Yeah.
With when you go into retro games, do it like just because you're doing a retro game doesn't mean you have to have everything on the screen slow down when there's too many enemies on the screen.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
you can
Well-
get the feel of it, but then also be like, hey, we can have auto saving. We can have
because there's also
cool.
there's
We
also
can-
that idea of like this thing looks like how you remember.
right.
But
yeah.
also like things like the screen slowing down because there's too many enemies on the screen isn't like the intent of that video game. That's just restriction of the hardware, right?
Yeah, I'm actually like I'm a huge fan of games like and I wish more would do it. Like, but I mean, like Yoshi's Island isn't actually a retro game because it just came out when it came out.
Yeah.
But I wish more games would do things, or I wish games would, like when they make a retro game. Like I remember when like was it Mega Man 10
Yeah.
came out, or 8 or 9 or
I think
whatever.
it was 10, the one that harkened back to the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love them to do like you do the pixel art thing, do, and go through like half the game, and then something totally bonkers that there's no way a Nintendo could have done.
Yes.
Happens.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just the Shovel Knight games are good for that. Like
Yeah.
they're like the Shovel Knight games are designed as like a retro style game.
Yes.
But there's areas and there's like enemies where there's like tons of stuff going on. There's huge enemies. Like there's things that you definitely could not have done
Yes.
on a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, they would not be able to deal with it, which is funny because it's one of the reasons why I don't like the Shovel Knight games is because I cut my teeth on a lot of Nintendo side scrollers that had black backgrounds and bright whatever and that are like that were Nintendo hard. And I'm just like, I'm done. I did that shit when I was like a kid. I don't have to. It's like sleeping in a tent, guys. At a certain point, you can get an RV and you can enjoy camping for once in your life. And that's kind of how I feel. Is I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I will say that I definitely like when I look at big lists of like when I look at like say my backlog of games or whatever, or games that I've sort of think might be interesting. You do get a little bit of the like pixel art fatigue. You sort of go like, I don't really want to go for another pixel art.
You have a backlog.
I mean,
How big is your backlog?
it's not small. I'll say that.
Is it mostly Steam? Is it Steam
no.
sales games?
No.
Ooh.
It's mostly. I mean, it's the vast majority of it is Epic and Epic and
free games.
GOG?
Amazon.
Oh, and Amazon.
free games.
Okay, cool. I actually that you bring this up is an interesting point. The RZET thing, because then we also talked about the nature of slowdown and designing games different ways. Displaced Gaming or Displaced Gamers is a YouTube channel I've been watching for a while, and they just recently did an episode that was about how games deal with slowdown, especially from the NES era. How does the NES actually do that? Because when that is happening, they can code around that. But there's also instances where having that slowdown can get integrated into the game in a certain way, so that the game actually has to be slowed down in a certain way in order for it to be playable properly. Like it's very unusual.
Yeah, there's a YouTube series that I've been watching actually recently. I forget what it's called now, but a guy basically going into old games and figuring out, in some cases, figuring out like why they're like old bad games, like they control badly.
Yeah.
And sometimes in figuring out why they did that. And in some cases, it's not even like that hard a fix to be like, oh, this game could be so much better. Like with this, you input like 3 different Game Genie codes and the game works perfectly.
We might be watching the same channel, Paul.
It might be, yeah.
I do like he does very good stuff. And yeah, I really like that they made this homage to the good old CDI. I mean, to the Zelda game specifically, right?
Yeah.
From the CDI. That's really cool that they did that. I didn't want to play it, and because I was afraid it was going to be all floaty and terrible. But now that I see it's a little more platformy, I'm like, I could probably stand playing it.
Sometimes I just like playing bad games, like not the whole game, but there's something about experiencing a thing other people have experienced.
Yeah.
That is fun to share in.
Yeah, I played ET though. Don't need to do that
I don't need
again.
to do that
Yeah,
one.
I
have
owned
no
a copy
interest
of
in
ET.
that. That's nice.
Kind of wish I still had it.
Just very quickly do a story here that because it's not really a video game story, except that both of these companies do produce a lot of video game related merchandise.
Yes.
Squishmallows and Build-A-Bear, which we've talked about on previous checkpoints because they both have an extensive range of Pokemon plush things.
Yes.
In some cases, quite disturbingly large sizes. They have gone into
Gengar's great.
got into what Polygon calls the cutest legal scuffle ever. because
Build-A-Bear.
Yeah, Build-A-Bear is apparently biting into Squishmallow's turf with their new line of Scooshers, soft
Soft, round, orby things.
soft round orby things. And I mean, sometimes they copyright lawsuits go different ways.
Yeah.
But sometimes, a copyright, they actually go to like a jury thing,
Yes.
and a jury will like look at it. And I mean, look, chat, if you were the jury here, I don't know, that's looking pretty suspicious to me.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
Like the fact that you can pull out a few examples and say, okay, this is the one we made first, and this is the one they've made now, and kind of have that moment of, well, yeah, that does seem pretty similar, even
I
if it's not the
suppose.
same.
I mean, the axolotl looks like everything I've seen in every kind of axolotl in any kind of plush form.
Yeah.
There is an aspect of like the Squishmallows are like, not that they were the first to do this.
They
but
sure weren't.
But the Squishmallows are, there's a particular filling in the Squishmallows that make them feel like more, they're like more,
It's more of a beanie thing
Squishy.
than
There's a
different.
polyfill.
yeah.
but also they have, they were, I guess they're sort of known for basic sort of spherizing things.
They have a specific, if they were drawn, you'd say art style.
Yeah.
An aesthetic.
And it's funny because
Which Build-A-Bear didn't necessarily. I mean, it's still plush stuff is always going to be poofy to some extent.
Yeah.
But
it is funny because I did see, I don't know if it was in the comments for this Polygon article or whatnot, but there was some conversation about the fact that Squishmallows has already taken other companies to court over this same thing of you can't make your weird like soft orbs. You're not allowed to do that. That's our turf.
We've made circles. No one else may make the circles.
This is our trade dress. I don't know what they're talking about, but it sounds like they have taken others to court, and they have won in other cases. And
Sure.
Meanwhile, I'm like, we can get Squishmallows at the goddamn grocery store. Like,
they're pretty ubiquitous.
they're kind of just everywhere. And yet I had to go to the States.
Those are Palm Pals. I mean, they do have a couple Squishmallows, but most of those are actually Palm Pals.
Like at the Shoppers Drug Mart?
There's a lot of Save-On.
I'm talking to...
The London Drugs has Squishmallows.
And they used to have Squishmallows at Save-On, but not anymore. But I remember other Save-Ons that did have them, and now the Shoppers Drug Mart, they carry them in their little weird section as well. It's a very... they kind of get everywhere. Meanwhile, I had to go to the States to get a Squishable, which was apparently, I think, around longer than Squishmallows has been. And Squishmallow has definitely not gone after Squishable at all about any of the stuff that they're making. And even with similar names, I would have thought that Squishable would have been like, hey,
Are
wait
you
a
talking
minute.
about that moth?
Yeah, my rosy maple
okay.
moth.
Squishable.
I got that rosy maple moth. It's so cute.
Squishable is like we were first.
Yeah.
We came up with the idea of squishing things.
Mm-hmm. And no one's ever, they haven't started a fight. Now, I assume that's because Squishable maybe doesn't have the money to start the fight. So
Oh, maybe. Or maybe
Maybe.
they have and it didn't go anywhere.
they might also just not give a shit. They might be like, whatever. Everyone's making money.
Speaking
knows?
of people making money, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Panic! Wait.
Don't panic.
Don't yell fire in a theater.
Panic, the developer of the Playdate, or the producer of the Playdate, I guess you should say, the manufacturer. They've been talking about, that obviously the Playdate has been a very successful thing for them.
Yeah, they finally finished pre-orders.
Yeah, now you can order them and get one.
They feel they're comfortable. They're in a comfortable place. They've finally gotten to a place where they are. They're not always in stock. They say, well, but how they are now, they can reliably get them. Frequent shipments of them.
It's very cool. There was a new catalog drop the other day. If you have a Playdate, you didn't know about that. I don't know how that's even possible.
I mean, the catalog drop is just more
new-
games are on the store. Let us tell you about them.
Yeah.
And so this interesting interview in GameDeveloper.com is talking. They're talking about how for the first, not up until now, but for the first chunk of the life of the Playdate, just getting the physical things out to people was the main priority. And
Yeah.
of course, that happened during the pandemic, and they had to switch chips at one point. And there was all sorts of production issues that you would expect from a company being the first time making a hardware product like this.
Yes.
But now they feel like they're there, and so they're really trying to shift their emphasis into the software side and promoting the developers and
Okay. I
things.
mean, I don't think they've brought the dock out yet that they promised.
Fair. I think this is interesting that it's like up until now, Panic's been mostly interested in it's like push the hardware, let people know there's games, let people know there's more games, let people know there's games coming out all the time, that kind of thing. Because all the PR that I've seen from Panic has been we are promoting our console and our and what it can do. We've been spending several years doing that, which is unusual because most console developers don't put in a multi-year process of we are constantly trying to tell people that this thing exists and what it can do and all that.
Oh.
You would be doing a lot more promoting of here's all the cool games that are on it, go play this game, go play that game, because that's a lot more what we're used to, I think, with a lot of console manufacturers, right?
I think that's not entirely true, though. There are commercials that go up all the time that are like, oh, it's the PS5, and here's some games that are on it, and it can do things. You
Right.
just skip those commercials.
Yeah, I guess.
Except for that one time, because there were the Japanese girl group was in it.
Yeah, and we're like, what is this about? Yeah, Tadashi Gakko did a PS5 commercial, which is like good for them. I think it was a Foam Stars related one too.
No, it had Foam Stars and it had like Final Fantasy 16
That's
in
right,
it.
it
It
had
just
a few.
started with Foam Stars, so we were like, really?
But I think that it's like that was even promoting games, right? Like that PS5 commercial specifically is promoting games. PS5 commercials, all these commercials, whenever you show off a thing, it's never like an iPhone commercial, which is you see somebody walking around with their iPhone and they do like a little thing and they move on, and iPhone commercials are lifestyle commercials. They're meant to show you how this thing that you're doing, 3 seconds of interacting with your phone and then this happens, 3 seconds of interacting with your phone and this happens. Never about look at the cool apps that somebody has made for this phone. They don't really like go into detail to show off like Fantastical or like a lot of those things. Maybe you'll see some gaming, right? But they don't really show off a lot of like third-party like utility apps.
I guess it depends. I mean, I've seen ads like that, but it depends on the context.
Yeah, no one for all their privacy apps, they're never showing off. Here's how 1Password works. Like they're not doing that kind of thing. But
by the way, have you seen 1Password has gone all in on Tommy Wiseau as their spokesperson?
right, to keep out bad actors.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
I know
yeah.
something about the bad actors.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I still feel pretty strongly that this is a pivot for Panic to be like, it's not like they haven't talked about video games before. They've supported a lot of video games, but this
No.
is the first time they want to say it is time now to show off the play date, but show off the games and promote the people making the games, and then at the end have that kind of thing of like, and it's on the play date, like that kind of idea. I think that's what it sounds like they want to do now, and they haven't been doing that up until now.
And one of the things that is also interesting, sort of, and fitting with the Playdate aesthetic, I guess, and the sort of mission statement, is they have been very tight about the catalog, which is their like the storefront that they've added to the Playdate. There are currently something like 120 games in it, and they are very they've been very precise about how they've been releasing games. And in this interview, he talks about that there's a backlog, and they don't want to just like dump a bunch of stuff on there. They're doing, he's saying, they've been uploading titles to the catalog in batches of 5, and Panic really wants each developer to have like their day in the sun, to be kind of, and it's this idea that I think is indicative of the Playdate as a whole, right? It is sort of, it's, they know it's this sort of little boutique weird thing, and they don't want it to become this sort of, I guess, mass market item, or they don't want it to.
Well, they don't want it to become shuffleware.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's kind of that's the complaint you get with a lot of online shops is especially after a while, right, when they've built up, where it's just
Yeah.
like,
You're-
oh, the games that are always like $1 are always on sale and they always show up at the top, and it's some sort of
You're not going to
like-
find a Lethal Company mobile in the store.
No,
here.
like it's still a niche product, and they by having the catalog be like more of the we want only certain things on here because you can sideload games,
You can,
right?
yeah, and
they
they're
don't need to
It's not locked in that
do that,
way.
but like the catalog's meant to be this place of like you can come here and find things this way if you want to.
Yeah, and so I mean everything I read about the Playdate and stuff around. So, and by the way, they were talking about how like 10,000 was apparently their sort of goal originally to sort of this was a success as a product.
Right.
I think they're up to 50,000 or something now, 50 or 60,000,
That's awesome.
which is great. I mean, in the Sony thing, they talked about they just shipped 50 million PlayStation 5s.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So
it's
it's a whole different realm that they're in, right? That they're going for, and that's fine. That's cool, right? Like that's what they were trying to do. I know every story about the Playdate. It always they've shipped over 70,000 units. It always makes me think about like the Amico,
Yeah.
whatever, right? And it's just like I mean, obviously there's all sorts of differences between them, but from the sort of bird's eye perspective, kind of similar ideas of sort of a console that's got like a bunch of retro stuff on it,
Right.
and is sort of operating outside the current
Console industry.
console industry,
Yeah.
trying to kind of go it alone, and just shows that it can be done in the right. You have to know what you're doing, and the Playdate knows what they knew what it was doing. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be. It's what it's not, and
Yeah.
and they really got it into that niche, and it's a fun little thing.
Yeah, if you wanna see what some of the games are like, there's a VOD from the Subathon on youtube.com/loadingreadylive, and I did some more on my own stream at home, and you can find that VOD over at youtube.com/lunarjade. They're neat little games. Like even if you don't want to buy one, because for some people it's kind of a sink for what they might want. They're neat to look at. You should check them out.
Hey, Twitch,
Recommendation dog's really cute.
do you want to play Pokemon?
They did this once.
Do you
Yeah,
wanna play
it is the
Pokemon?
10th anniversary of Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Ah.
Which means now it can become a Pokemon trainer.
That's true. And in honor of the 10th anniversary, the folks who did the original Twitch Plays Pokemon are revisiting it. They're doing it once. They're going back to Pokemon Red, this time being played on a real, like, not an emulator. It's a Super NES with a
Super Game Boy?
with a Super Game Boy plugged into it, and some fancy additional hardware to
Give you the
to
controller.
translate the controllers.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. That's really cool.
And so it's actually, so what they're broadcasting is the CRT screen.
All right. All right.
And they've also committed to doing it completely in anarchy mode, which is the inputs. What people write is what it just queues up what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
Not the voting on
Right.
what happens.
There's different varieties. There's the voting, and then there's also some do it where if too many people put in a certain option, it only accepts so many, or there's certain restrictions in order to try to make it actually work better, because depending on how many people you have in the room typing. I've watched a couple get played. It's fun trying to watch them get over a bridge.
Yeah. if I recall in
or
the
leave
Twitch
a building.
in the original Twitch Plays Pokemon, they put it into democracy mode because at one point they were stuck for like days. There was just like there was like 2 rocks and they couldn't like
Navigate around them.
every time they would move the right way, somebody else would end up pushing the wrong direction.
Yep.
They were just stuck in this corner for
No,
a
it's,
really
it's
long
fun to
time.
watch in anarchy mode because occasionally you see groups of people trying to organize everyone into doing the thing that
Yeah.
they need to do, and sometimes it works. Which
All
is,
it takes is
is
one
interesting.
person to do the wrong thing.
But often it doesn't.
So anyway, and I believe the plan is to actually go do a full run through of all the Pokemon games as they go. So
Yeah, we never tried anarchy mode with Desert Bus, did we?
no, we did not. We actually the idea was floated around because when we had like the device and various other things, theoretically it would have been possible. But I don't see there's any way of doing it that it doesn't just immediately go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd mostly
crash.
be stuck on the naming screen most of the stream.
I mean, even getting them past that. So just let's do Baco and run. I'm just like, I have this feeling that trying to get them to start the vehicle would be the hardest part. Because even I don't really know how to do it properly. I just keep pressing buttons until something happens.
Because usually when we have to reload the game, we have to get back into Desert Bus, right? Because it's a mini game as part of the game.
Yeah.
So do you let them have to the
Just
beginning and get into Desert Bus?
Randomly start playing Bug Bombers or whatever
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
games are.
Oh, Jesus.
Disney Dreamlight Valley teased their upcoming expansion with emojis.
Yeah, some good bottom text.
What? So here are the emojis.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think
right.
this is
the candle and
what
pasta.
character are they going to add?
Candle and Pasta is like the
Lady in the
two
Tramp,
dogs.
yeah.
Yeah. What is that? A door and an eye would be Monsters Inc.
All right, because Mike works at the doors, yeah.
And it's a person and a ghost?
Person and a snake.
Person and a snake? Adam and Eve.
A person, or is it's a redheaded woman and a snake? Maybe that matters? I'm not sure.
The consensus is this is all actually Monsters Inc. stuff.
Because it all refers to
So like Lady and Snake is Mike's
girlfriend.
girlfriend is like
okay.
she's got like a snake hair.
She's Gorgon, yeah.
Yeah.
A Gorgon. Or
And they
sort
go out to dinner one night and they have pasta.
So
I thought they couldn't manage to get a date happening.
No, they
in that
did.
movie.
In one of the movies, he managed to go out on a date with her, and then he had to like step out because the shit was going down or something, and she was upset
Okay.
about it. Or
so
maybe the series, maybe that happened. What am I thinking of? The series was good. I had a good time watching the series.
now I was thinking about that. I was like, I like this idea of emojis.
I mean, that's a meme that they've just done.
Yeah. But I like promoting games with that.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking these are a couple that I came up with.
Actually, funnily, it's one of the things that people do for when they're leaking video games. They don't actually say the title; they'll just put up a bunch of emojis, and because people know that they're leakers, they'll try to identify what they think the thing is.
So
Leak an emoji.
It's a gun. It's
Splatoon.
high heels. It's a.
Wait, are these all the same game, or
It's a
So
woman
this
who's
is
dressed in a blue
this is
suit.
one game.
this is one game?
So this is Metroid.
Yeah, busted Bayonetta. That's busted. Got it.
Gun shoes.
These are gun shoes, hair, witch.
Ah, yes, that's
okay.
good. I like that.
How about this one?
Swords, gun, punching. This is just Stardew Valley.
Sword, gun, punch,
Orb.
magic.
Magic map.
There you go. Final
I mean-
Fantasy. Got it.
The first one, or all of them?
Well, the new Final Fantasy is coming out, so I was thinking about that.
Oh, okay, 7.
And it's
The
a chocobo.
at
It's a
the end.
chocobo.
That's cute.
I mean, it's pretty hard to come up with an original one for this, but
So Skull and Bones.
yeah.
Thieves.
See, if, I mean, that's the problem. Differentiating between the different pirate games would be the
Yes.
tough one, right?
Yeah.
Skull and Bones was what I was thinking about because that's the one that's coming out. How about I was happy with this one.
Gears of War.
Worms.
Yeah, I had Gears of War. So like gear, guns, battle hat, or helmet, robot arm, beef. The gear is a dead giveaway.
I feel like you've just made a live bit.
I mean, this is pretty easy. I
Golden
think.
Sun.
Portal, exactly. Gun with blue and orange and computer. And then Heather.
Nidhogg.
Hatsune
So it's
not Princess Peach. There's
so-
not enough emojis of all her new jobs.
so it's a rhythm game with.
Crypt of the Necrodancer?
Well, why would there be bugs? Are there bugs in it?
No.
Oh wait,
Hollow Knight?
I like Hollow Knight as an answer.
I like Hollow
bugs
Knight, but I
and,
don't
and
really
a guy
think
with a
that's
sword.
right.
But then the
Bug Knight.
Silk Song.
Silk Song. Oh,
The
I was
kimono's great,
I
yeah.
was not gonna get Silk Song. Usually, when I see people do emojis for Silk Song, they do thread.
Thread. Oh, that thread's
Because
good.
Thread's kind of a big thing in that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Thread would have been better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I think
know
you just
that's-
made a live bit.
maybe that is a live bit. Anyway.
Well, now we can't be on it.
Come
I'm
up
fine
with your own
yeah.
and put them in the comments.
And then collect them and mail them to us, and we'll do a this or that.
Announced 5 years ago, Silk Song. Yeah, it was announced on Valentine's Day in
It's
2019.
Silk Song's 5-year announcement anniversary, and
One day, I won't come into work because Silk Song will be out.
Helldivers
okay,
is a game. Helldivers 2, in fact, is a
okay.
new
Oh,
game
it's a sequel.
even
that
better.
just came out. It's very, very popular. Or, it's really, really...
Okay, if Helldivers, is this like a submarine game, or is this like they're diving into lava?
It's like a
Does it tell?
Lethal Company. It's like a Deep Rock Galactic. It's
yeah, it's a roguelite kind of...
I would
a
not
big
have
group of
put-
people going down... Helldivers as in, like, going down into
Okay.
nasty,
Cavern.
really nasty
I would
place.
I would not have equated Lethal Company and Galactic
Deep Rock Galactic.
to Deep Rock Galactic.
They're you squad up kind of dangerous shit happening games.
Yeah, but once you're very in a submarine in one.
Anyway,
think.
but it is also it's a big multiplayer game that has or sort of squad based multiplayer thing, been very, very popular, being made by a relatively small team, and as is often the case with games like situations like this, the game just blew up in popularity.
Right.
And it's been a little bit much for the relatively small team to handle. And so there's this post on their on Twitter. They say, thank you. We're undergoing server maintenance. And they just wanted there's this stuff where they're talking about some of the couple of technical details.
Okay.
Where it's saying, we've increased the rate limit from 10,000 per minute to 20,000 a minute. Our total concurrent players has increased from 250,000 to 360,000.
Okay.
That was, except they ran out of that 360,000 in 5.5 minutes after they did the upgrade.
Right.
So they're saying, as such, issues with logins remain. Please, bear with us. The capacity, we're increasing the capacity. The stuff is currently working. They're saying, for now, please accept our sincere apologies for issues you're facing, and rest assured we are doing utmost. But in order to do so, it is now crucial that our team get some sleep. We will be back at this again in a few hours.
Good for
Good.
them.
Yeah. This game was released I think it was released last Friday or last so basically I'm assuming that they've been working round the clock since there,
for
and
about a
being
week. Yeah.
Okay, we have to actually
Yeah, no, I think that's very good.
It's tough too, right? Because when you launch a game and then you have catastrophic success, it's so rough to be like, you're like, well, shit, I got to be on call. I got to be ready to fix all these problems. Oh my God, we have to fix, because if we don't, it'll crater and then nobody will want to play our game anymore. We got to get them all in here while it's hot. And I'm like, nice to see a healthy attitude of being like, okay, we did as much as we could.
Yeah.
We got to get some sleep.
Well, it's also like an indicator of like the size of the team. It's
Yeah.
not like they can. It's like we're our Australian branch
we
is
can't
working
do
on
shifts.
this while our North American people are sleeping. It's like there's probably like 5 guys working on this.
I want to know. I looked up Deep Rock Galactic, and I am thinking of a very different game than that one.
Okay. I can't wait to find out what game you're thinking of.
Something with a submarine. I know Paul played it with like a bunch of people on CDS. once.
yeah, with a summary, yeah.
Yeah.
The
What was
Something
four-year-
about why we must go deeper.
Yeah.
That's it.
For some reason,
Which
that's
is
always
about a
the
sub-
game.
I mean, it is about a
think of when
submarine.
I hear of Deep Rock Galactic, and I don't know
You said
why.
there was a submarine. I'm like, is there a submarine in Lethal Company I didn't know about? Is that what they go down to?
No, I'm pretty sure there isn't, but I also have only seen everything from those VODs I've seen out of the highlights.
Yeah, true.
Alrighty. And then the final piece of his stuff here is, and I think actually I saw Graham posted this on. He mentioned this on like his Mastodon account or something after the episode went up, about why he didn't do this story. So, Overwatch 2, has just sort of been undergoing. We've talked a little bit about the somewhat fraught Overwatch 2 detail. They've been, when it first came out, or when they brought it out, there was a lot of consternation back and forth. They've been trying to do competitive stuff, and then that kind of collapsed. Then they're trying to bring the competitive stuff back. And anyway, the most recent patch, which came out on the 13th, is extensive. It's like the patch notes are maybe like 30 pages worth of stuff that they've changed. Basically, every character in the entire game has had some tweaks to them. They've completely changed the way competitive play and ranking works.
It's now a visual novel based around Mahjong.
Yes.
I mean, that'd be neat.
They've now people who are watching who play Overwatch 2 might have more insight into this, but from my brief sort of perusal of this, season 9 is what this update is bringing. They've added new skill tiers. They've changed how the groupings work. How they've added new levels to the tier system. New ways of doing points. They've revamped Farah and what's the other one? Farah and I thought another character got it.
Zenyatta? No? Okay.
No. Anyway, they've changed some stuff, a little bit of stuff on a bunch of the characters. Farah's got a whole bunch of changed her abilities. They've changed a bunch of the actual levels, a bunch of the maps. Basically, and the thing I saw, this was this was just like people talking in like comments about things, but the rumor is that this is some of the stuff that they kind of wanted to do, but while
the merger was going on.
The merger was going on, they weren't there.
Because there was a lot of stuff before Overwatch 2 came out as well, where like what was it, the director left, and like other people on the team were like the team constantly had like
has been going through a few changes,
a lot of changes going on, and there was all kinds of just talk about that. And then when it came out, we had the whole free to play thing, and like your first game's going away, and all of that as well, which probably didn't endear the fan base, but
it's always amazing to see these kind of stories. When you talk about something in the context of like a competitive game, right? Like, I mean, I wrote a sketch about it, we did a sketch about it like a really long time ago, called like Chess 2.0, right?
Yeah.
But this idea that like, if you were a competitive Overwatch 2 player at the pinnacle, suddenly all the rule, like a ton of the stuff has changed.
Yeah.
Things have more health. Things do less damage. Things have a different range.
Yeah,
Things
you're-
like suddenly all your skills have to be readjusted to this new new setup.
It's like your muscle memory changing in a way that it's like you've become used to a certain become used to the meta, right? You become used to how it all works, and then you're like, wait, there's been changes. Now I need to make adjustments, and you get used to playing a certain style, and you're like, wait, I can't play that way anymore because of this other reason. And yeah,
For some reason, I also really like Junker Town has also been updated to change the map a little bit to apparently it favored sort of one team over another, so
okay.
they changed it around. But I love these. So they've got these like before and after things.
Yeah.
So you see before, and then I imagine you're running. You played this level 100,000 times.
Yeah.
You run in, it's like there's a big rock there.
Yep. There's more stuff in your way.
There wasn't a rock there before.
Yep.
Or you go like, oh, I'll hide behind that water tower. Whoop, it's gone now.
You know, sweet.
Or actually,
Gentrification.
yeah. My favorite actually is this. I don't know. Maybe I can here. Let me zoom in here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is. You can see before and after.
Those two rooms don't belong
So
together.
you can see, this is before.
Yeah.
Look at the little sign there. It says stairs
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Right? But you can see they've adjusted things. So now the stairs are diagonally that way
Ah, yes, good.
instead of up.
I like that the stairs are bigger and that the room actually has come like more out forward in a little way. There's like less of a nook to hang
It's-
around the corner, but yeah.
It's more the fact that when they redid the level, they went in and they felt the need to go in and change that graffiti.
Yeah.
to it's like, hey, the arrow, it's been bugging me for 5 years that arrow
feel
isn't
like-
pointing the right way.
Yeah, I feel like if there's not somebody that's mad about that, there's been like people who are like, the arrow points up when it really should kind of point this way. Like,
That's like the windmills in Dragon Age. That's my favorite story that Brian ever told us. Was that when they were working on the windmills, I think for Dragon Age, whoever animated them to rotate the wrong way.
Oh, because of how the veins on the
Yeah, and he was like, that's not how windmills work. They don't rotate. They don't counter rotate that way. They have to go this way.
Right.
And they were like, what are you talking about? And he had to basically prove it to them. It's like, they're rotating the wrong way. You need to change that because it's not right.
or like some were going one way and some the other.
I think it was that they were all because they're all.
they're probably all going the
They're
same
all from the
direction.
same. They're all the same class or whatever, right? So they all say they have to turn a certain direction. But it's just like he had to go tell them. It's like, no, that's not right. They have to go like this. And they were like, really?
It's
They
that
questioned it, right? So-
right, but it's that thing, that sort of that weird like knowledge where it's just like, windmills rotate. Just which way did they go? I don't know. Just choose a way.
Pick a direction.
Choose a direction.
Yeah, what looks best? It's like
Yeah.
this one, right? It's like, no.
Anyway,
But what's funny in my brain? I'm like, I know that wind turbines that that generate electricity. I can see in my head the direction that they turn clockwise, right? A windmill, I cannot picture in my head what they're supposed to do. I can just picture the way that it turns in Ocarina of Time. That's it. That's the only way that I can picture how a windmill works.
when you picture it, do you also picture the appropriate song that goes with it?
Yes, but I can't. I like da-na-na, da-na-na, da, and I'm like, yes, it turns clockwise, and I'm like, does it? But do they turn clockwise in real life? I don't know.
like they don't. I mean, it doesn't, like they could turn either way. It just depends on the direction the veins
I
are.
would assume so. Yes.
But
I've
there's
never-
a standard, I
Yeah,
guess.
I've never seen a wind turbine actually spin counter, right? And even like when you're,
I mean, and if you have like a bunch of them, it probably makes sense to have them all go the same way so that they don't mess with each other.
I think that's the idea. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite windmill? I guess it's Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I guess it is. That's my favorite windmill. It's the only one I can
How
remember.
about you, Paul? Do you have a favorite video game windmill? Chat, definitely write us your favorite video game windmill in the comments below on the YouTube VOD.
Yes. Perfect.
In Tunic, there's the like there's
the little puzzle windmill.
there's the puzzle windmill. That windmill's pretty
That's
cool.
a pretty good windmill.
Yeah.
It's got a dude inside it.
To be honest, right now I can't think of what direction it spins and whether it goes the right way.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Anyway, that was the last story that I had written down here. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us on the ChillPoint, and thanks for checking out. If you haven't already, you should check out the episode of Checkpoint that is up on our YouTube channel, or youtube.com/LRVG. But for now, we will talk to all y'all later.
Patreon.com/loadingreadyrun.
Yay, do that.